That's right, everybody. Welcome to this week's editions of Free Will Burning Podcast. We've done one already this week. We're doing one today and a piece of it today, and the rest of it will be tomorrow. But what we have today is a couple of things we want to talk about. First, we have some big news. Iron Maiden just dropped just within the last half hour. That's partially why we're doing it like this. And then also we're going to talk extensively about a topic that has come up among the Gen X community, I guess, lately, if there's such thing as a Gen X community. But so, Troy, hey, by the way, I'm Steve. This is my brother, Troy. Troy, how you doing?
Irons up is how
Irons up. Earth Dogs. All right. And we are the Gen X transplant brothers, both born in 1966, both receiving liver transplants in the last 10 years. And so, yeah, that's our stick. So we're going to share this right now so that we can, I'm going to put on my glasses. And we're going to share this right now. Look at this news that just got dropped, everybody. We're going to share this here. It's already out there. I don't think Iron Maiden's going to mind. If they do, then we'll just have to take it out. Here it goes, Troy. Let's watch this.
What an amazing thing this is. If you're an Iron Maiden fan, you're part of one family, my friends.
The gods of metal.
We were playing locally around East End of London. It started to snowball for us.
I'll be right back.
We were picking up fans the first gigs we did.
Whenever I see a Maiden shirt out in the wild, throw you the horns.
Any long career is going to have ups and downs, and you just kind of ride with it.
Steve had this vision. If you interfered with that vision, you were not going to stay with this band.
Gordiano was the first singer of the band.
But he wasn't really looking after himself.
Hello there. That's right, it's Bruce.
Bruce was just a piece of the puzzle.
It's like you're watching Broadway. Think of a more recognizable mascot than Eddie and Iron Maiden.
It just kept getting bigger.
We didn't realise just what a toll it would take.
A bruising few years.
We're going to go outside and have a fist fight.
I thought of packing it in completely.
Bruce in his box.
The press were saying Maiden are dead. We have grunge.
And he said, I've got throat cancer. It's my brother. He could die. We were just up against it. And I like that. That's a challenge.
It was always about the fans.
Just with you through thick and thin.
This group created its own universe.
They belong together.
Iron Maiden hit rock bottom in order to become the greatest band in the world a second time.
6, 6, 6. No more of the beast. Hell and fire was sworn to me. We are all blood brothers.
Coming soon. What do you think of that, Troy? There's a movie about Iron Maiden.
That's crazy. I just saw on Yahoo this morning that today is Steve Harris's birthday.
Actually, is that today or was that recently? Because I've been seeing birthdays
Maybe it
a
was
lot
recently.
lately.
I thought it was today.
At any rate,
maybe I'm
because I remember
behind.
I saw it all come through my Facebook feed. Oddly, I didn't know I had that many Maiden fan friends, but I guess that's kind of universal. It's funny like that with bands like Iron Maiden. You might not think about it right now. How a person is, how they are in their life that you might know through some whatever, but you never know what they were like in 1986 or 1982 or even 1990 or 95 or 2000, depending on, the whole, how it shook out for them. Or any time, for that matter, for me, Iron Maiden. I'm not trying to say only Gen X or Iron Maiden fans, but at any rate, man, I thought that was huge news. That's great because, as I've said, I've got tickets, as you do, if you get down here, if the passport gets here, to see Iron Maiden in Bogota, Colombia on October something of this year. Providing there's no U.S.
Craziness.
Yeah, craziness, which is something of, that's what I was going to open up with us today. We do have something, everybody. Welcome to the show, by the way. I didn't formally say that at the beginning, but we have two main things I wanted to talk about. One was I watched the beginning of a video I'm just going to tell you about. It's a guy, he's named Nomad Capitalist, and it's his title on YouTube. And believe it or not, I actually reached out to his team to see if we can get him to come on the show to talk about what he does, and in regards to the whole situation, maybe with people in maybe not true retirement, but maybe where the age group I'm at, or at the top end of Gen X, but I live out of the country, but I still do work. I just happen to live in Colombia, by the way. And so, be that as it may, I thought it might be applicable. So we're in the process of that. But he came out with a video just yesterday talking about, because what he deals with is global, people that expatriate from the United States for good, in this game, a lot in his case. I mean, go all the way through the process. Not that he encourages that, but some of them do. Multiple passports, things like this. High-end people, mostly. I think it's like $500K north of that for most of his clientele. Be that as it may, today, his video he just came out with was what everybody should do now with global conflict, because the chance of the United States actually getting hit. And I was like, oh boy, there we go. Now, first off, I'm not talking about him in particular, but the whole wave of fear. As soon as you have a drone rumor off the coast of Los Angeles, it's like, oh my God. It's kind of like when, what was it you were saying when you were living in St. Louis? During Black Lives Matter. How people in the small town USA were like wondering, are they going to march in my town? Are they going to come, burn down our whatever?
Bring it on.
Right. I mean, to hear stories like that. Now, granted, that hasn't happened with this, but the media, you'd think it had. I mean, the way they talk, they blow it out of the water. Just like yesterday here in Colombia, there was a bomb discovered just on this side of the Colombia-Ecuador border, in an area where I'm not going to mention these names because I just don't want to speak about this stuff really too much. It's not wise. Groups that move back and forth from Colombia to Ecuador, just as they do from Venezuela to Colombia on the other side. And currently, they're running around mostly in Ecuador, and that's causing a problem. And U.S. troops were recently down there and had a big engagement with them by the invitation of Ecuador. And it was a huge success. It was well publicized down here and probably in the U.S. But at any rate, there was a bomb. And so within hours, there were videos already up on YouTube. Is Colombia and Ecuador going to war? Literally, that was the title of one of them. Just because a bomb that had been determined to have fallen off of an aircraft, not like some regular artillery, which is odd, and it exploded and killed like 20 people, or they've found the charred bodies of these people. And they don't know who the charred bodies were. For all we know, they were groups they were going after, and they intentionally did this, whoever they are, but it wasn't anybody from the Colombia side. So it's an international event. But the speed with which it went from being the military is looking into it to within an hour, literally an hour of me first hearing of this, seeing these propagation of all these videos pop out. And I started watching them, and I quickly realized I don't even know if this is AI voice, because the pictures are kind of generic.
Yeah.
And it lasts like 3 minutes. And it just tells you basically the skeleton, basically what I just said, without saying it like that, making it sound a lot more dramatic. Something came across the border. Anyway, so back to how this, what do you think about, all right, Troy, I've been babbling a lot at the beginning. Any comments on all that?
Is your president of Colombia going, hey, Chat GPT, should I bomb Ecuador or not?
Now, you want to know the left argument joke you just set yourself up with? No, the U.S. military is. I saw an article about that in the BBC paper, one of those papers over there. It was a guy that did it's similar to this thing where you see people that'll take several different chat GTP, like they'll take Gemini, Claude, and chat GTP, and they'll ask it some crazy question, and it'll give them a crazy answer, and then they'll see blah, 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 and it's crazy. And by the way, I've tried literally to replicate those results on those same, and I've never been able to do it. So I don't know what the hell they're doing. I'm not calling them liars, but I can't replicate that. And at any rate, and I'll literally do step for step what they did. I've never, none of them even.
Which makes you wonder, are they just lying? They're saying, this is what I did.
Well, that's what
full of shit.
That's where I get, who knows? Maybe the video itself is AI.
Yeah.
I mean, somebody said, make a video that does this. I don't know. Any rate, we're getting way off track. Why I was talking about, so Nomad Capitalist mentioned this thing about, people moving in and out of the country. And, so I was going to actually play that and talk about that and see how is the temperature on that in the United States? I mean, I just characterized it, but I'm looking at it from a long way away. How are the people feeling about this whole thing up there?
About which one?
Yeah, I didn't set that up right. About the fact that the U.S. could get hit, because that's what the video is about. That the United States, now's the time to get out because wartime preparations are going to be X and this and that and the other thing. You can go watch the video on Nomad Capitalist, but what to do basically to keep yourself safe in a financial and be able to move kind of way.
You know what? I don't think people really think about it. I think
No.
it's mostly a news media fear thing. The only thing we have to fear is the news media's fear itself. I don't know anybody that worries about it. I can imagine what would happen is if Islam did something, there'd be there'd be an internal war against Islam almost immediately, not claimed by our government, but I think the people would be like, enough.
So let me unpack this a little bit because I want to make sure we're clear on exactly what we're saying, or what you just said anyway. If Islam, you mean if Islamic brandishing Islam over, say, a specific nationality, like not Iran, not whatever, right? But if it's specifically that, okay,
right?
And so if it is that, this brings up an interesting point because look, in World War II, what happened with Japanese?
Right, we rounded them up.
They got interned, but then also some of them were given the opportunity to volunteer, which they did en masse and ended up becoming highly effective troops. I forget the name of it. They went up and fought somewhere in Italy or something like that. And anyway, so it was a huge bad mistake on the part of we panicked there. There's probably wasn't any call for any of that. Obviously, today we have to say, politically correct. Why would we ever do that? But at the time, it probably made sense. But definitely an overreaction. Today, we are seeing that with sort of, in a way, it's well documented in the media. People, I'm not trying to scoop anything here. There's been instances lately that have been done clearly in the name of a particular faith, because they literally yell out the words.
Right.
And so it's kind of hard to get around that part. How long do you think the U.S. regular everyday U.S. people will put up with that kind of behavior, particularly if there were a strike on the U.S.?
I don't think very long at all. I really don't. Because I think for the most part, people are fed up with it, especially since all this fraud stuff has come out. And it's a certain group of people. And people are just tired of it. We're all broke. We can't afford groceries. And these people are millionaires. And they are of that particular religion.
Oh, you're talking about the scandals? Yeah, the finance, those
it's everywhere.
The Nick Shirley stuff.
It's everywhere.
Right, the whole Nick Shirley. What are you talking about? Just Google Nick Shirley. It's all over the place. He's currently doing a thing like that in California, by the way.
Yeah, I just watched it last night. I'm like, are you fucking
I saw
kidding me?
somebody else talking about it. I haven't seen it yet, though. Any rate, this is some uncharted territory for us, but it's not. We live in it. And it's very real. What are we supposed to do? Sit here and talk about Sears catalogs if something like that's going on? We have to be real about it. It is a place that we don't want to make toxic, obviously, with this kind of being a daily thing.
And I'll get back to what we started with. If it affects, if they do something like that and it affects Iron Maiden coming to a city near me, I'm gonna be pissed. There's gonna be problems.
That's where we'll draw the line. Who had that song? Draw the line. Who was that?
Yeah, the trooper's gonna come out, motherfucker.
The trooper's coming back out. Here we go. Who had Draw the Line? Oh, Draw the Line was Aerosmith. Aerosmith had Draw the Line. Yeah. Okay, well, yeah. So the whole thing it just gets weird, And part of the reason that, for me, the reason I think of it, because I usually don't think of these things as much, but living in Colombia, when the president is siding with the other side, or at least not siding with the other side, he's siding with the people that are on our side that are against us, being America, demanding immediate stop and all that. again, I'm not taking a position. That's what the president's here saying. I don't think we have to listen to anybody else, the random opinions of others. You know, a lot of times getting back to the media, it's kind of like with politicians. A lot of times when people see these people that are so indoctrinated with a particular news source or a particular politician, it's kind of like the equivalent of trusting the guy that's drunk at the bar, because the guy drunk at the bar is probably just spewing the same exact stuff that whatever these people have said. So if you just flip that around and imagine the other people being the drunk guy at the bar, stop listening to both of them. And I know it's a weird way of looking at that, but I thought of that the other day. I was like, this is basic. The narrative is what the most simple-minded people will repeat, buy into everything. And so anybody that's repeating, anybody that symbolizes that narrative is probably also, I don't know, just like the drunk guy.
The drunk guy goes, "I love you, man."
Well, that's right. Trust us. We're out for your best interests.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly.
a little bit rabbit hole. And so back to those random opinions of others. We're going to switch gears now, folks. We're going to go to
And for the next rabbit hole,
we're going to go down the court of public opinion. Gen X has opinions about it, and I'm going to share with us here now. Man, every time I go to share, the reason it takes me a long time is because I'm afraid of hitting the disconnect button, because that's how it is on Zoom. And I don't want to close the session. Okay, so look at this. We have today how other generations view Gen X. We have the top 5 pros and cons. So you ready for this?
This is going to be good.
And we even have a bonus at the end. So stick around at the end, because you're going to find out that one of the things that we dislike the most, the person sitting right here speaking right now, is actually partially responsible for it being the case. So, and I need to point that out, because that's it's been something I've thought about for a long time. So you ready for this, Troy? You're going to be able to handle it?
I can't wait to see what my kids think of me.
Do you need to count to 10? Do we need to take a pause to get your thoughts so you don't react too much to this? You cool?
No, I'll be calm.
Okay. Here we go. I think we're going to start with the good stuff. Let's see. What's first? Yes. They think that we are self-reliant. So the way that I did this is I went and I looked at various lists of opinions of Gen X and put together the top ones that I took. And then the basic things that were mentioned are the things over here on the side. And then at the bottom of these are sort of stuff that maybe we might think about it. So the silent generation, it says here, look, we grew up latchkey kids. We all know that. That's something we talk about here a lot. It's like our own Gen X mythology built in. This whole, this, however people think of what that is. So I'm not even going to ask you to comment, Troy, because we talk about that too much. Solving problems alone, see comfortable making decisions without supervision, adapting quickly when systems fail. Don't wait for permission to act. Which of those stands out to you, Troy?
Don't wait for permission to act.
And how's that? You go
Did what we wanted when we wanted, and grew up kind of with not having to have permission. So you just did it.
Right. And yeah, so the self-reliant generation, and every single one of those points all work interchangeably with that, because all those sort of naturally coexist. Yeah, so at the bottom, we have raised with less oversight, developed strong independent skills. Look at us, hoo-ah, hoo-ah.
Yeah.
And your thoughts about self-reliant generation? I think we're pretty self-reliant, and that's really the point of this whole damn channel, is the whole, adaptability, the ability to get back up and keep going. And as problems come along, just know that's a part of life. You're going to trip, you're going to fall down. No matter how well things are going, there's always going to be something that comes up that's called progress. Without any kind of resistance, how are you going to get better? And when stuff happen that we experience, it doesn't happen to us. It happened because of something that we encountered or we did. We have to be able to look at it that way. Therefore, we're not the victim, and we can keep learning from our experiences instead of pouting about them. Gen X gets things done. Do you get things done, Troy?
Used to. I just don't really care to do anything. I get a lot of nothing done now. I love it.
Okay, so in this instance, retirement is good.
Yes.
When it comes to I'm bored as shit, retirement sucks. Right?
Yes. Well, it's fun finding stuff to do, though.
I know. We've talked about that before. You said you had several hobbies.
Yeah.
But we did have an episode once where we talked about sometimes you just run out of stuff to do when you have nothing. And you have only your stuff to do all the time.
Yeah.
You know, it's like a little resistance would be good. Okay, so focus on results, not recognition. That depends on the people. Pride is that's a big, once your ego goes sort of the wrong direction and pride takes over, it's all about recognition.
Yeah.
Solving problems without drama.
Oh,
why would,
drama.
right. Why would, it's like putting sand in a socket before you put the screw in it. Why would you put it in, you don't want drama, just keep it as clean as possible. Strong practical and technical skills. Again, I think if you go back to the first one, learning how to solve problems, I think a lot of us inherently, if we lived that experience, and that doesn't mean you had to have it like that. People can have this on their own, obviously, but it's part of this thing they think about is strong practical and technical skills, probably a result of trial and error and less an actual training. Practical, see? Reliability and follow through. Yeah, when you have all the time in the world to do it and you're the one that did it, it's your decision to do it. You're obviously going to have the commitment to follow through and do it. Right?
Yeah.
Do you remember a lot of half finished things, Troy? When we were kids?
No, I don't.
And then the question becomes, did we just forget them? or did they even take place?
Possibly.
Were they ever here at all?
They may have been half-assed done just because we forgot and thought, yeah, it's done.
Right.
I'll move on to something else.
That's right. This looks more exciting over there. I'm done with the chocolate. On to the vanilla.
I'll clean this half of the garage.
Action over meetings or discussion. Yes. Well, that's where independent comes through, and I don't know if, I'll speak out of, look at me. I've been sitting here working remotely in this very chair and just right behind a computer like this for now 27 years, 20, whatever 97 was, 29 years. So yeah, but plenty of other people, and I'm sure there's plenty of people that do like to have more involvement with others, blah, blah, blah. So it's kind of making it sound like we're just loners.
I am.
Exactly. If somebody plays this back closely, but okay, so quiet competence over public performance. Yeah, I guess it depends on the person, and it obviously depends on the state, maybe of mind too. Throw in some alcohol, public performance, much easier.
Yeah.
So, all right, here we go. The bridge between analog and digital. Now, why would they admire that, you think? And so it comes, the reason that title is what it basically came down to is because the fact that we sort of have mirror images of it in our lives at this point. For a lot of us, we went, close to it. Look, from 66 to 96, how much of all this, I was working online for the first time in 96 at age 30. That's when I got online. Well, I got on in 95, but I started earning and I've been earning since. So that part, I guess, that's half. The millennials had really no memory of they might have some, but in their professional life, it was all internet and all that stuff from the early days. Computers, certainly. And then with boomers, there's plenty of boomers that are just as hip, so to speak, technologically as any of us, or anybody. But not numbers wise. And they have experiences further back too, but it would have been analog. Okay, comfortable with both paper systems and digital tools. Yeah, is that a problem for others? What do you got against paper, millennials?
Well, they don't. I believe my oldest boy did not learn cursive, but my youngest boy did. So that's
an interesting point. That is an interesting point because, when you get to that, I remember thinking about this a few years ago. Get to that, if you can't write it, can you read it? Can you read the Constitution? Can you read the Declaration of Independence? The real one, not the one that somebody printed out for you.
Right.
But the one that is,
yeah.
You know what I mean? The one that's literally laying there somewhere, in Washington, D.C.
Well, like cursive for us is what texting is to millennials, I guess.
Theirs is much faster and less sloppy.
Yeah.
and legible
Legible.
and spell
Well,
checked.
well, now everything, your signature's
Uh-oh.
digital now. So, I mean, how long is it going to be before people don't even know how to?
Okay, everybody. Sorry. We just had a really fast power went out for just a second, got disconnected. While we were gone, Troy and I could not recall what the last thing I said was. We had been speaking about cursive and whether or not people can read it because they're not being taught that in schools anymore. Looking at this slide here. Anyway, well, I had just talked about, Constitution and all that stuff. And unless you have anything else, Troy, can you recall what you were about to say? Because you were about to say something.
No, but should we talk about the pros and cons of Alzheimer's now?
Or the pros and
No.
cons of the Colombian electronics? Because earlier today it went out like 4 times. It hasn't gone out in a while. I need to knock on wood. Because when it goes out, we lose water too. But
yeah, analog and digital. Yeah, digital.
mhm.
Okay, I'm catching up now.
Catch up.
Turd.
We can operate in both worlds, and we help two sides understand each other. Well, I guess we're translators now too. I don't know. Okay, well, that's what people think. What do you think out there? Comment below what you think of this. If you're Gen X, do you see yourself as a bridge between analog and digital? I mean, obviously we are, and that's in a literal sense, but I mean, as an identity, is that something that you've done in the past? Like, this is how to, I don't know. I don't even know what context it would be, but maybe just in the way people approach processes. Because it does, anyway. They raise themselves well. Harkening back to the latchkey thing. These images were generated. I did these, by the way, just based on, I gave it the idea of what it was going to be. This is what it's put. But so, yeah, here's the latchkey again. Responsibility at a young age. Took care of ourselves, often younger siblings. I don't know about the younger siblings because that was sort of like a, well, I did not have bullies and I did not bully younger brothers. It wasn't like that. But it also wasn't a case of, I mean, look at movies like Stranger Things. The siblings don't really get along, but they don't really hate each other. I mean, there's nothing like that. Now, with you and I, we had lots of connections because we were playing music and all this stuff. There was really none of that ever. But what I'm basically looking at is a lot of my friends, it was kind of different. Like their younger brothers, they'd punch them. Or their older, the younger brothers would just not come around us, or whatever, or just some of that kind of things, or they're making fun of their sisters, vice versa. But that could just be typical siblings of any age. But where I think this might be coming from is those images you see from like Stand By Me and all this, where various age groups of kids are walking across bridges and helping each other not fall down, which we actually had that experience.
Yep.
Yeah, well, we did. We had with the train and everything on the Trowbridge Road. But
Yep.
but that riding bikes off into the night, and obviously the stuff where when your younger brother's getting bullied, the big brother shows up, that kind of stuff. But again, these could be for any generation, really. Maybe if with us it was just siblings itself. I mean, look at that. I mean, a lot of we talk about declining birth rates in the United States and how people are having less kids or no kids at all these days. It was common for most of my friends to have at least 3, maybe 4 in most cases, kids. If there was one kid, there was usually 3 or 4. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. Yes.
Well, you came from the Mormon community. Didn't they have like 14?
Yeah, that's why they all had station wagons and Suburbans.
Right. Mom and dad had ones. They take all the kids.
You take those 7 and I'll take these 9 to church. See you there.
Right. You take Lehi, Nephi, and Joseph. Anyway. So became comfortable navigating the world without constant guidance. This all goes back to the latchkey thing. So there's the real theme developing here is that we were independent. that they admire the independence, because these are different ways of saying they admire independence, or at least not, did I say envy it in a way that they wish, it's something that maybe they would have liked to enjoy. Not that they're envious of us, so don't get your panties in a lot of other generations. Now this I saw resonate or repeated in a lot of different places. Rolling Stone actually had something on this too. Gen X was the coolest. And so here we have a punker, an early grunge person, and either metal or could be playing Steely Dan or could be playing Foghat or Elton John or who knows, Iron Maiden. Just the dude, the long hair.
He's playing it all, man. Well, he has a Dave Murray Stratocaster.
Yeah,
well,
he has a Strat.
No.
It's a Strat. It's an AI.
Doesn't have
Strat.
the double coil.
No, it doesn't have the double coil.
Shame.
Yep. But then the punker's got a nice jacket, though. I'll give it that, huh?
Nice hair, too. Love the hair.
Okay, well, the image is the best part of this slide. Defining alternative music and culture. Yeah, I think that, well, again, there's an interesting thing about the music we liked. But when it gets to Nirvana, that's Gen X, because Kurt Cobain was Gen X.
And my youngest son, who is 20, he has that shirt.
Now, does he? Yeah, my wife.
Yeah, he loves Nirvana. He loves the '90s music.
Yeah, my wife. She's a very oldest. She's like me with Gen X. So Gen X being second year, she's second year millennial. So okay, grunge, hip hop, indie. Yes, those were there too. Well, not hip hop and indie. We already talked about grunge. Indie, I guess. What we're talking about? What people that liked David Bowie and things like that, and are all the way to what the precursors of REM and stuff. Authenticity mattered more than image. Yeah, I think that image was one thing. Well, but it wasn't like we all had the same one, is what I'm saying. You know what I mean? The difference between that's the jacket you have to have. Ours, at least in our situation, we literally made our own leather jackets. I did. It was personalized.
But authenticity, that is one topic there that hair bands completely canceled all that out.
Well, depending on what the authentic message or who they were trying to authentically be.
Image flakes? Was everything, and music.
No, I don't want to call them nothing. Out. No, I've watched some videos with some of the old hair metal band guys that are still out there today. They don't look like that nowadays. Now they look like they should have looked in the early 80s, as far as they actually look more heavier metal and sometimes weight, but not the glitz, and they're down to earth great guys, and they talk about music. I mean, they talk about it. I mean, they really did go on to, they were very successful, and they dominate the memory. Most people, when they think of metal in the 80s, they think of the hair bands. They'll think Iron Maiden, of course. They'll think Metallica and maybe Priest, maybe if they possibly know Motorhead or something like that. But then it'll quickly go to, Motley Crue and Twisted Sister, which we did have at the outbreak of the show today, start of the show today, and to bands like that, Poison. Every rose has its thorn. Yeah. Style driven by self-cop. Yeah, see, there you go. Subculture, not marketing. It wasn't like we had to have that leather jacket that's at the store and everybody had to have the same one. That didn't happen until later, and that was more of a later Gen X and then not early millennial. It was later Gen X. Remember, everybody, when you had to have the black Reeboks? Remember the black Reebok phase? It was like late 80s. When I got out of the Army, I moved to New Jersey, just outside of New York City. And all the people in New Jersey, they're all the guys there, everybody, of course, almost all of them were Italian, but almost everybody had black Reeboks. You had to have them. And and then you think of things like, well, just marketing in general. You got to go to Air Jordans, any number of things after that. But I don't know. At any rate, style driven by subculture, right? And those are three subcultures we see here. Cool without trying to be cool. Well, I guess that's a matter of opinion. So I don't know if that's the last one. How many have we had? We might be going to the dark side now.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. We are cynical and jaded. What do you mean we're jaded and cynical? What are you trying to say, you lying sack of...
Rotten bastards.
Oh,
Rotten
come on.
bastards.
I love the guy with the drink. Here, I got my Coke. He's got his scotch or whatever.
The pollution in the background.
There's a guy with a selfie with the pollution in the background. Another dude staring at his cell phone. And then I guess an AI woman. I don't know.
Is that a robot?
I don't know.
What is
Ship
that
in the
damn
background.
thing?
Anyway, yeah, I'm cynical. The whole world's just effed up. Grew up during institutional distrust, the Cold War, Watergate aftermath, corporate layoffs. We tend to question authority and official narratives. Of course, remember the drunk guy at the bar? Skeptical of hype, marketing, and political messaging. Again, the drunk guy at the bar. Humor, often sarcastic or ironic. You think?
Yes, definitely.
You think? Optimism,
Yes,
sometimes interpreted as naive, I guess.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, I don't know. All right, so when what Gen X calls realism, others call cynicism. So that's what it is. Okay, so our reality is what they call cynical. Or our real, well, not that doesn't match. Our realism is not necessarily reality. So our realism is things that we believe are real, things that we actualize as real, and are actually, they say, are cynical. So when we call it as it is, they think we're being critical or cynical. Well, sorry, Cupcake. So again, not interested in committee here. Remember, Han Solo said that. I don't have time for committee. And then she goes, who's committee? The princess. Exactly. They taught us well. Thank you. And we just mentioned, that's 2 episodes in a row with Han Solo because we had the Millennial Falcon mentioned in the other one. The dashboard of the car looks like the Millennial Falcon. Optimism, sometimes interpreted as naive. Okay, we just read that. And back to the Alzheimer's from the last slides. Troy, anything else about cynical and jaded?
That's not a criticism. That's truth.
Well, I doubt anybody's going to reply down there because nobody ever does. But if you have anything to say about being cynical and jaded, be sure to comment below.
And make sure it's cynical and jaded.
It's cynical and jaded. I don't think they're going to be able to do it because they never do. That's my cynical and jaded closure to that one. Okay, workaholics. Again, not all, but then also not currently for some. I don't know though, Troy. What do you think? Before we read it, what do you consider? If you consider all the things that you do to keep yourself busy, regardless of whether it's something that earns money, in other words, do you ever find yourself with nothing to do and you can't figure out what to do next?
Yes.
Okay. So you're not a workaholic in the sense that you must keep going. You can stop.
For me, workaholism ended in corporate life when you realize that there's just some people, I don't know, man. The corporate world's different, you know?
Yeah.
When you do have that attitude when you're young, I'm going to work and I'm going to work hard. I'm going to move up in the company and, you know, people that don't deserve, you know, then you just fuck it. I'm just showing up, doing my thing. So this whole workaholic thing, that was me up until probably 40 years old, maybe 45. And I was just, nah, this ain't working for me. I'm just going to show up, do my thing, and leave. That was me. Maybe other people are different.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure. Well, other people are different. We do know that. But
they have to be.
Yeah. And that's what I was getting at with when I said, depending on what point in your life, because right now, I mean, you can intentionally hit pause. I mean, I know expats down here that are retired that, I mean, they don't get bored, but they're fine just sitting on the porch having coffee for an hour, reading a book, you know, or
I'm
something.
fine with that too.
Or
sitting
maybe
on the
longer.
dock of the bay,
Or not
watching
even
the tide roll away.
The infamous album that started my rock and roll journey. But go back and look. It'll go by right now. There'll be a thing up top to that video where we talk about that. So at any rate, so here's the reason I asked you the way that, and the reason I asked it the way that I did to begin with, is to also equate busyness with workaholic. And that one I'm guilty of, because yesterday I got up at like 3:50. This morning I got up at about 4:30, and I'll be in here at this computer probably until about 7 all day, like pretty much every day, except when I go out. I mean, I have lunch and things like that. I go to the store, but whenever I'm not doing something else specifically, I'm in here doing something on one of my various projects, because I've got not so many different, but I've got a lot of things going on. And that's been that way forever. Now, when I had specific things to do, like when I was writing first 2 books I wrote on American Civil War back in the early 90s, those times I would be up at these hours with the computer on Microsoft Word or whatever it was at the time, typing away. This is mid-90s, excuse me. Typing away literally all day, looking at maps, looking at research, going and getting interlibrary loan materials, getting on the road, going places, traveling all around the Southeast and staying in hotels, doing research. And every moment of every day that I was doing that, when I was in that phase, about a year and a half of that. And the same thing for the 17 years that I was at UGA Sports, which we're going to get back to later. I just realized that was a little bit of a spoiler for the big surprise at the end. But workaholics, I've been guilty of that in the sense of, I just can't stop. And disclaimer, I've said here before that I'm also a counselor. I would say, looking at that from the outside, if somebody were to hear that kind of thing, the thing that if you've also seen videos where I talk about how I went to 12 schools of 12 grades and traveled a lot and everything else, and I lived all over the place, and now I'm an expat, it also sounds like it's a workaholic is also somewhat tied to a survival sort of mindset. Got to keep going. Never enough. You never know what's going to happen next, so you got to be prepared type of thinking. And I wonder if other people that are workaholics have some amount of override of survival that's just running with them constantly because of the way that they were raised, and then the point in their life to which they even realize that, realizing that at 50 years running on that, you can't just shut it off. If you try to shut it off at 25 or 30, maybe, but it gets baked in. Old dog, new tricks. I know you could always get it figured out, blah, blah, blah. But I just think it's an interesting concept.
That, when you have your own business, as you have, you have more of the workaholic thing. Like I have an uncle, Dave. He's an architect. He's in his late 80s and still does it, loves it, keeps going doing architecture. So
from Minnesota, Dave?
Florida.
Okay, who was Minnesota?
Charles. No,
Charles.
He was Wisconsin.
Oh, it was
Wisconsin. He's from Wisconsin.
Wisconsin. Where'd you get that? She's just making shit up, not Troy. Don't spit your water.
Get shit from the Wisconsin folk.
That's right. Okay, so we often stay late to solve problems personally. Yes. Gets back to the individuality. Less comfort delegating or stepping back. Absolutely. I'm going to save some of my babble here for a minute, because I'm going to talk specifically about some things. Prioritize stability over lifestyle.
Yeah, I was that way, definitely.
That's where it flips with me.
Well, I think stability and lifestyle kind of equated.
But lifestyle always precedes stability with me. And I'm not saying that as some kind of bragging thing, but if you just look at my track record, I have been moving my whole freaking life. I've moved 12 times since 2020. And so
I think, yeah. I think they were equal. I think it was the same thing. They were equal to me.
Yeah. And so this hasn't been about stability, why I moved recently, but the reason I've moved in the past made no sense stability. When I moved from Oregon to Georgia on a whim to start a .com and gave up everything and had everything in a U-Haul, that wasn't very stable. But I wanted to work. I only wanted to work remotely. I wanted to not do anything but work at home, and I had an opportunity to start a business online, and I did. And we'll talk about that in a minute here, more so. Okay. Sometimes, living to work. Interesting question here. I will just get this one out of the way. It took me I've been a remote worker, as I said, now for 29 years, solely and self-employed. And so throughout that time, early on, it was yeah, man, I worked from home. And then I started to wonder, wait, am I living at work? Because I found myself, just like today, up before I hit start on the coffee. I come in here, sit down, and as the lights in the computer come on, I'm just opening my eyes for the first time and, go to the bathroom, brush teeth, all that stuff. Come back, the computer's up, coffee's about ready, and we're off. And so, why couldn't have that been in the living room for 20 minutes? Well, because I have things to do. I don't know. I can listen to, I still listen to two very different newscasts every morning. I listen to NPR's Morning Edition still, which I've done for a number of years, just to get a sane version of some of the otherwise positions that I normally wouldn't be exposed to. And then I'll listen to like any number of podcasts of guys that naturally lean right, but aren't, they're not ready to storm the Capitol. Well, maybe in the past, but at any rate, not to get too political there, but people that see some of these issues in a way that I would, should I vote. And so Gen X calls responsibility, others call burnout culture. Yeah, I can see that. Especially if you've never here. We'll maybe take a little shot. There's that video that we watched from what was his name? Something Dory. The Gen X video, Gen Z video we did.
Yeah, I forgot his name.
There was that one. He's a millennial talking about how Z, is so screwed and all that. But the thing is, I think that if you talk about it as if you're screwed, you're automatically taking on the victim position. You're already saying there's something over you that you can't get past. And that is fundamentally different than the way that we would have done it. And so if Gen X wants to plant a flag, we can plant it right there. And so the responsible thing to do would be to figure out what to do, even if that takes you working all the freaking time and becoming a workaholic to get it done, to see it through. And call that burnout if you want to, but we call it survival. We call it getting shit done and doing it ourselves. So there. we just took I guess we just struck out for Gen X on that one, or not struck out as in at the plate, but I usually don't take shots at others who would say stuff like that, but I see this kind of view of us being expressed in other ways like that. But the flip side of it is, if you want to look at it like this, well then it's hard if you sit around and don't do anything, it's awful hard to call somebody else a workaholic.
Yeah.
If all you want to do is bitch. Okay, on to the next one. Can't stop talking about the mid-70s to early 90s.
Oh, yeah.
Guilty as charged.
Yeah. Matter of fact, let's start talking about it right now.
We frequently say music used to be better. We often claim movies had more originality back then. Talk about these first two are just true statements. What we do frequently, we are expressing true observations. And, yeah. Anyway, they were better. Talk about pre-internet was a better time. What do you think, Troy? If you really bust it down to brass tacks here. Would you rather stand in line at Ticketmaster for, get there on Saturday morning for the tickets that come out on Monday to see The Who? Or would you rather, take your chances and, get in the pre-sale and all that, and then boom, they're delivered to your inbox?
Well, I don't know. In college, you spend a whole semester doing a paper or a thesis on bankruptcy, and the whole semester, research, going to the library, finding everything you need that you can do in one day now. So, yeah,
7
I kind of like
minutes.
the internet. Yeah, 7 minutes.
Less than that, probably.
Right.
But, yeah, exactly. And then if you had to type it, oh my God, footnotes.
Oh, yeah, on a typewriter. Whiteout.
Whiteout. Oh.
I bought whiteout by the gallons.
Yeah. Some of my work was so bad, I just dumped it on the whole page.
I typed on whiteout.
Remember the registration story, Troy?
Uh,
We told the registration story, I think, in one of the videos. But we were both in an English class at the same time at Northern Arizona University. We decided to
I
go to
remember
college.
that.
And you will in a second. We had this English class with these, or maybe you said you do remember that. These two young guys were they're both grad school, just out of grad school, probably whatever. And they kind of liked us because we were nothing like the rest of the class. We were older by not much, but 5 years. And I had already been on Grateful Dead tours. Troy and I were currently at the time working construction out in Arizona. And the first assignment was to write about registration because Northern Arizona University had just changed to a system where you had to run around from all the various departments to see what was open. And then if something opened up for you, you had to go back to the other department, drop the class you had, then get back in time. Yeah. When you got back, it would be gone. And it really messed up registration. And
it took like a week.
Right. And this was like the beginning of week 2. Between week 1 and week 2, Grateful Dead had played out in California, and I drove out there to go see them in my VW bus, and I had Arizona plates. And on the way back, I'm driving down on the way to Bakersfield, and I get pulled over, and I'm like, oh, here we go. And so cop comes up and says, "Can I see your registration?" And I gave it to him, and he goes, "Well, thanks." He goes, "Where are you going?" He asked me where I was going. I said, "I'm going back home." He says, "Where are you coming from?" I told him Grateful Dead show. It was obvious. I had 7,000 stickers all over my vehicle, and I was tie-dyed.
You're under arrest.
No. So all he was doing, he told me, in the end, it came out that there was a lot of hippies that had moved out there that were staying and living there, but not getting registered there at their plates and all that. And that's illegal, and they were cracking down on it. But since that wasn't the case, he let me go. And so there we are sitting in class that next Monday or Tuesday, and the story comes up. I want everybody to write a 1-page essay right now here in class on registration. And so everybody wrote their little papers about how bad it was going from class to class to class. And then I wrote mine telling the story I just had about getting pulled over for registration, about the vehicle, thinking that, I was going to maybe get popped for having pot in the truck, my vehicle, which would have happened. In my VW bus. Just picture the scene, folks. You ever seen Deadheads in the late 80s, early 90s? Anyway, yeah, it was fully that. And and so anyway, the guy starts reading it. We pass him to the front. He starts reading it, and he gets to mine. And they thought it was hilarious. They read through they thought I was making it up. And I told them, no, it's true, but it was because all the other stories were all dealing with one thing. So that was the registration story. And from that day on, and someday we'll tell you about the Rodney King riots that happened with those two guys. That's another great story. Troy and I wasted having stolen helium balloons from a wedding party, speaking in high voices. We'll get back to that one later. So we can't stop talking about those times. Well, there you go. That was early 90s right there, what we just talked about. It was a better time. Party. You'll never get away with that shit now. Okay, reference childhood freedom was simpler. See, I just did it. It was simpler. You can get away with stuff. And I'm not bragging about this, folks, and not glorifying the behavior. But, Troy, remember that very same VW bus? We'd get in that thing with a cooler between us, drive out into the Navajo reservation from Flagstaff, not see anybody forever, drink like half the day, pull over, fall asleep, and then drive home later. You're not going to get away with that now, folks. Don't try that. And so there's two reasons not to. It's first off, it's not 1991 and or 1990, I guess that would have been. All right, so
throwing the beer bottles out the window and going, glass is what was our justification for living?
We were recycling.
Glass is biodegradable.
Right. We were recycling under Plan B, as we said.
Right.
That is biodegradable, right? As we'd smash it against the red rocks. Guys, man, we're probably going to lose half our subscribers on this segment.
Suck.
These guys are horrible. Compare modern trends unfavorably to, I don't know if the modern, let's see. if we want to talk about the modern trend of being addicted to bad news and bad protests and bad movements and everybody's pissed off at everything else, seemingly that's the only thing. Although I don't know how much people actually experience this in their day-to-day lives. Because when I go home to States at Christmas and during the summer around family and friends, we never talk about these things. It might come up, but I never see a protest. I've never been bombed. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but the way that the media makes us think about it, it's as if every street corner there's a protest going on and every town's about to fall into chaos.
They like to create their stories. I mean, if there's not chaos, they don't have anything to report,
And then they say, don't read stuff on the internet. It's just clickbait. But that's the same thing you are.
Watch our television program.
Exactly. It's a longer click. You just sit there. Click the remote instead.
I was watching a guy talk about how he was doing a podcast on how we should get off the internet. I was like, dude.
That's great.
What are you doing?
Yeah, exactly. I should start an offering, an online offering over at Valkyrie just on how to get off the internet, make it like a year long. We meet every three.
Still here.
10 grand. I guarantee it happens. And then, you meet every 3 months. And at the end of the year, you send me the computer. Let's see if anybody signs up for that. Okay, critics say Gen X is stuck replaying the soundtrack of its youth. I mean, come on, let's just see. Let's literally look, folks. We have the Spotify official. It's on Spotify, the Gen X Transplant Bros playlist, which we are. And so let's look at these songs. Actually, no, we're not going to because I have it turned off for noise. But at any rate, the entire nothing on there goes past actually like 1986. And there are some Iron Maidens that might squeak by. That's right about the time. Anything before Seventh Son, Still With Me, technically makes the mix. And there's plenty that I've heard since. But that's the time that I transitioned into a different kind of music because there was such a departure. The sound they had been gradually changing. From Killers to Number of the Beast is one thing because the singer. But from Number of the Beast to, say, Power Slave, still basically the same kind of thing, ish. But when you start to get to Somewhere in Time and then Live After Death, I mean, by that, the sound is getting a lot. I mean, it's great. I absolutely love it. I still do to this day, but it's a lot different. It's a lot more polished. It's a lot more other sounds going on. There's keyboardy stuff going on.
Yeah.
And it's great. I mean, Loneliness, The Long Distance Runner, all that stuff right in that era where that stuff is heavy, or at least, and there might be later ones. I have not listened to the later Iron Maiden albums as much as I should. And believe it or not, I get to cheat because they've already released their playlist for the upcoming tour. And it's almost all but 2 songs are from the era I'm talking about. And Fear of the Dark is one of them, which I like, which is from after that. And the other one I was familiar with it. I mean, I've heard it. I forget what it is, but it was a song I liked as well. And I'm not bashing on, last thing I'm ever going to freaking do is bash on Maiden. 82 to 2026 is my bookends right now. First time and hopefully next time. Hopefully not last time. Off we go. Okay, go. Yeah.
Did you ever hear they had an album of just B-sides. Did you ever hear that one? That was...
Oh, man. Troy, go on. Yeah, Spotify has all of this. I mean, you can you'll find like things like that, which I don't know if Maiden, but this would be an example of one that would have it. They'll have B-sides. And then like 4 or 5 years later, remastered, and it'll have like 8 different tracks. It'll have like maybe a live song from that era of that B-song, being played. And so there's so much of that. Like the difference, I know a lot of this from the Grateful Dead experience because with the Grateful Dead albums, if you go back and look at like the remastered versions of like American Beauty, arguably their best album musically as far as the songs, and a lot of Deadheads would probably agree with me on that or one right before it, Working Man's Dead. The remastered is like 3 times as long as songs.
Oh.
Yeah, it's like alternate versions, and then there's whole albums of like different versions of different versions. I mean, and I'm not talking live versions, just studio versions. I mean, the Grateful Dead is over the top. There are like 100 different versions or 100 different album CD type things you can get now. And it's just because they recorded every last thing. And Deadheads are fine with it because they played it differently every time.
Yeah.
And so that's the beauty of that. And that's what I loved about it was the free flow of it. To me, that was as Gen X as it got. There's no rules at all. You didn't even really have to be in tune if you knew how to bend it far enough.
Yeah.
And as far as playing with the others, no, you're playing and they're there too. And so everybody's sort of out on their own island. Okay, so yeah, let's go on to the next one. Okay. I have some clarification on what they mean by the forgotten generation. It's not that we're forgotten generation like they don't think we exist. It's because we don't exist. We haven't had a U.S. president.
Oh.
You always hear about the arguments between boomers and millennials. Okay? Most of the cultural icons that we had of the 70s and 80s, people like Iron Maiden, were actually boomers. All of our rock stars were boomers, except for a band coming here soon, Korn. People like that. The singer of that, he's Gen X. He's one of the youngest. He's one of the first Gen Xers I could find that's still out there playing like that. Accused of consuming culture more than creating it. If we want to talk about what happened to music, when we were of age to be what Maiden was, that's the era we talk about music dying. The late 90s, after Kurt Cobain, we're like, what happened to metal or whatever happened to rock in general? So that's a weird who we mad at, sometimes seen as politically and culturally quiet. Again, we haven't had a president. You hear about all these politicians, and yes, we're here. There are plenty of Gen X that are out there. Don't get me wrong, but the ones that we hear the most about seem to still be boomers and millennials.
That settles it. I'm running
out of the U.S. or for president.
For president.
You already said that once before. That's twice. Third time you're going on the ballot.
And then I'm leaving the country after I win.
There you go. President expat. So
yeah, I didn't. I'll run it from wherever.
So then we can be the transplant Gen expats.
Expat presidents.
Okay, so critics say Gen X slipped through history without leaving a clear mark. Well, oof. We talked about this recently. We're going to have a president, and his name's going to be Marco Rubio, and he is Gen X. And
yeah, I like
we've
that
also put the word out to Marco Rubio that we would like to invite him on the show as Gen X to talk about growing up Gen X, the challenges he faced growing up, being the sons of immigrant, working his way up through politics, his views on Iron Maiden, and what it's like being Secretary of State, and maybe president. Yeah. And we'll stay away from the politics. So if you're watching, Marco, come on down. That'd be something else.
do you have a marshal?
Ooh. Oh my God. Can you imagine if we found out somebody like him actually in the background? Yeah, I do actually. I've got a Floyd Rose put onto my Flying V.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, are you kidding me? I just got a new tube screamer the other day off eBay.
That could be his whole campaign and he'd win.
Oh man, if he just seriously, we've talked about this before. When you bring that Marshall stack into practice, the whole vibe changes. We're gonna be a rock star now, man, right? Then you look at all the influencers. A lot of people have guitars and Marshall stacks, all those classic metal pictures. Marco Rubio should go on the campaign trail with a Marshall stack behind him.
Yes, he should.
He would get the Gen X vote. He'd get both sides.
Marco Marshall Rubio.
And he could start writing it with the Marshall logo. Man, we're on to something, folks. See? Come on down, Marco. Be on the show. We'll brainstorm this thing. We're going to get you in there, buddy. So we won't be forgotten for long. We're just going to change the game our way. Okay, now we'll need to back up for a second. All right. Spoiler alert on this next one. That was the fifth one. This next one is something that we've alluded to here, and something that I need to point out because As it just so happens, Steve Patterson did not build social media, but he may have helped open the box. And the reason we say that with all honesty is that the website that I began in 1997 was the first and largest and biggest and still has the most active community to this day and is still going. And the front page of the website, it was a journalism site, and I was not a trained journalist, but I was doing journalism, was newspapers read us, we don't read them. And I wanted everybody in the world to become a journalist because I did not think that the media was presenting news to them without filtering it through their own bias. And I wanted everybody to be a citizen journalist. And that was a novel idea, I thought, and it took off. And it became UGAsports.com, and on it went. It's out there today. It has a podcast that started in 2004, UGA Sports Live, that I hosted up until 2014 when I sold to Yahoo because at the time I was terminally ill with cancer. I was with transplant. I didn't have cancer yet, but I was liver failure, all that. But if you look at it, like the distance between that and what Twitter is now is exactly what I wanted to have happen. And so I was first interviewed about this for a doctoral thesis in like 2001. Somebody started thinking about this, or 2002 it would have been maybe. We were in about our fourth year, and since then it's been, and there's also a chapter on this that tells this story of this website and me. That is in a book, a text. It's actually a scholarly journal book that is actually part of the journalism department at the University of Michigan. So if you go through journalism at Michigan, you'll hear this story. And so, I complain in my way. Now, I don't sit around and bitch about it, but I wish we didn't have so much vitriol and just arguing and all that. But that's what you're going to get when everybody is scoop. When everybody has the news, and where they got it from, you don't know. They might have just seen it happen. They might have read about it from a guy that saw it, that heard about it, that it goes on forever. And by the time, even on that thing where you whisper in somebody's ear, it goes around the room by the time it gets back, the echo chamber and all this other stuff. That wasn't something obvious you could foresee in 1996 when I began doing this, in 97 when I monetized it, started taking subscribers. But that's the way it went. And so I've thought about this a lot in the past. There's a book written in 2016, 2 years after I sold it, by Rob Suggs. He's a New York Times bestseller, about the dog vent, the message board that we had. And I've known him for this entire time. He wrote it. He told this whole story in there, and then tells the story of the rise and how we got up to being 200 and some sites by the time, and covering the whole country and growing into rivals.com. And which is still out there today, how we sold to Yahoo. All that's in there. And so all of that along the way are things that I complain about today, because the way that I reported college sports turned into kids today being paid to play college sports. All that attention in that way, all that demand, the kid's ability to sit at home, become his own reporter. I wrote about this shit in like 2005. I was like, how long is it for a kid's going to start broadcasting live his own commitment on, whatever. And it wasn't happening at the time, but nowadays they'll have official visits from college coaches and have which used to be absolutely forbidden. It's gotten so liberal, not in the political way, but so loose with the rules that can happen. And those were things that I wrote against the notion of ever happening. And by virtue of creating the space in the way that I played my small role, I'm not trying to say I'm Gmail, though I was online before Gmail was, and Facebook, all of those, we predate all the Twitter. So Amazon was about the same time as Amazon when they were just books. But I look back at that sometimes and say, man, we're the forgotten generation in that context, but we also created the crap now that we don't like. And nobody blames us for that, thank goodness. But if we look at it like that, it's an interesting question for Gen X to think about. I'm not saying we all ought to sit around and ponder this at night, but if you think about these kind of generational things, it is an interesting observation, I think. What do you think of that, Troy?
Yeah, it is. I really don't know what to think of it.
It's like we had so much fun.
All this.
Right. We had so much fun growing up on our own, creating and being on our own, paying attention to ourselves and being just single-minded about our things, and being, of course, having friends and family and all that. I'm not trying to say we're loners, But as we enjoyed life, unlike the boomers, which blew it out financially and had all these, 2.5 kids and the fancy houses and investments, we just sort of just existed in workaholic, as they said, and did stuff. And now, in that gap, nothing was created because we were enjoying the toys we grew up with.
Yeah.
Still going to the same Monday night football games, still bitching about, oh, man, I remember what a controversy was when Thursday night football came, why do we have football? Why is football NFL on Saturday or college football on a Friday, be better. They're only supposed to be on Saturday. Some of us still say stuff like that.
I remember
we
when
sat
we
by and
were
watched it.
kids. When we were kids, it was junior high football was like Wednesdays.
Mm-hmm.
Junior varsity was Thursdays. Varsity was Fridays. College was Saturdays, and pros was Sunday, and of course Monday night football.
And one game on Monday night, and everybody watched it. Right.
Yep.
So it didn't matter who was playing. While you're checking the box scores in the newspaper.
When John Lennon died, that's how I found out he died. I was watching Monday Night Football and Howard Cosell. Yep.
Yeah, so we built the platforms that reshaped society. Zuckerberg is Gen X. And so's the guy that started, it's either Google or one of them. Google, I think, Gen X. Created the algorithms that dominate attention. Yeah, we're the ones that were workaholic away during a lot of this, developing this or overseeing the development of it. We weren't financing it maybe just yet because the boomers were, how you want to look at it. Millennials were learning it and being involved. But definitely us in the workaholic workplace would have been doing these algorithms. We led the tech revolution. Yeah, we replaced ourselves with our own innovation. And now we criticize it.
Man, those people suck. Wait a minute, that's us.
Who the hell did this? Right. Well, I've been out minding my own business, playing till after dark, drinking out of a water hose. I came home and the house sucks. Because you weren't home all day, nobody was here. And the bear came in and now lives in the living room. Ooh, that's an interesting way of looking at that. If you think about that, we talk about the immigration crisis, and I just said the bear comes in the house and sits in the living room. How did that happen? Well, I mean, again, where were we, Gen X? I mean, we have a huge voting population. I guess we were either complacent or we supported it. So 50% possibly of the people watching this supported having open borders, or at least having liberal immigration. I don't know.
Perhaps.
But it was definitely on our watch because we were all there.
Yeah.
So at any rate, yeah, that's, let's see, I think we have one more here. So this is sort of the way you can sort of look at some of these things, how they might kind of match up. We have the realism, but what we said, they think it is cynicism. When we call stuff, when we call shit like it is, we're too sarcastic. They call that cynicism. Responsibility for us, what we think we just have to do. Apparently, some think it's a workaholic, cultural burnout. Authenticity, nostalgia. That's where that's gotten to. So now when we think we're being authentic, like me, am I being authentically me? But it's also nostalgic because I first had this same T-shirt in 1982 when it came out. This is literally the first design shirt I ever had, Iron Maiden Killers. From Iron Maiden, anyway. I had shirts before that in life. Yeah, but it was when I was born in '66. I was wearing a Killer shirt.
I was born with killer diapers
And a Judas Priest tattoo.
Yeah, on my forehead.
Yeah. Independence, emotional distance. Independence, emotional distance. Well. Yeah, I see a lot of they talk about Gen X men, back to the Gen X men topic only, how the loneliness epidemic is big for us, particularly if we're single, even if we're married, the lack of friends and the way it used to be. And not to, again, well, let's wax poetic. Remember going when we were kids to dad's softball games? Like all the dads were there, all the moms were there. All the bleachers were full. The concession stand thing was going. The big tall lights were going with the bugs. And,
Yeah.
you know, and the only thing you wanted was enough money to go to get whatever they had that white candy bar. I forget what it's called. I always wanted to get that. But all the dads were there, and they would play the whole game. It was that, the fast-pitched, low kind they did they wear a glove. And then in Chicago, when I moved up there, my stepfather, John, who's still kicking, they did the slow pitch, and same thing. Everybody from the neighborhood would go out, or at least the guys that played. Everybody would be there. In this case, not the wives. It'd just be the dads and the sons. And big difference between small-town Neoga, Illinois, and big city Chicago in that regard. But, yeah. Anyway, thoughts on that? I went on a tangent.
Did he ever strike out in slow pitch? That's always embarrassing.
Yeah, that would be embarrassing. I don't recall strikeouts. But, well, actually, it's like this, though. Here's the other thing. The other common feature at the Chicago softball games was Old Style. Old Style was like the city beer of Chicago at the time.
Oh, yeah. It was made in Chicago.
Yeah, there'd be that. There'd be the peanuts there, and you better not shell them. You eat the whole dang, the shell, all of it, and salty as hell.
Wow, I did not know that.
Oh, yeah. No, you don't do that in Chicago. No, it's just like putting mustard. It's like putting ketchup on a hot dog. Oof, you get kicked out of town.
Shit.
Yeah, you got to watch that. Watch that. Just the yellow mustard. Okay, quiet builders, forgotten generation. Here we quietly built the world that we complain about now. Oops.
I didn't see this coming.
I was out being forgotten, or out being...
I was out being productive.
I was out standing in my field. How do I get this? Okay, cancel. I don't know how to get us back. All right, well, we are still in the little side things here. Our layout is not correct. Troy, do you have any other thoughts you want to say about any of this that we've talked about today? There we go.
Nope. I think that's covered pretty well. Yeah, I think that's going to do it. Hey, everybody, please let us know what you think of any of these things. Comment on any of this stuff. I hope we didn't make anybody upset, but if we did, well, then maybe don't watch the internet. Then we did.
Yeah, we're not as bad as it gets, so stop here and uninstall. And so at any rate, for those of us, or those of you out there that like this kind of content, let us know. We saw a lot of comments on the generational Gen X men video. We're going to try to delve into some of those topics. There's some interesting points raised there. And then we're just going to sort of bounce back and forth between what's going on. If it's super important, something in the news, we might mention it here, but we're not going to be like reporting. And then we're going to start doing more of them just like this, where we're just going with it and, making it a conversation, making it real. If you want to stick around the whole time, put us on in the background while you're driving down the road, or while you're maybe, cutting the grass, headset, whatever. I do that in the living room. I have a TV. It's on YouTube. Some of my favorite podcasts, like Speak the Truth, Matt Tardio. I listen to him go his whole show in there, stuff like that. But at any rate, Troy, you got anything to say to everybody?
Nope. Like and share and comment. I love the comments.
Troy loves the comments.
I will reply.
I will reply. Da, 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 da. Da, da, da,
As long as you make comments, I will reply.
All right. You got it, folks, from the Gen X Transplant Bros Free Will Burner podcast. We'll see you next time, man. You don't.
Adios.